Ashish Prashar is a former advisor to the UK's Middle East peace envoy and political strategist to the Biden campaign. He joins me now live from New York. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. Of course, this uncertainty over the ceasefire holding or not comes in the wake of extremely controversial statements made by US President Donald Trump, where he suggested America take ownership of Gaza and forcefully expel Palestinians living there. So I wonder, to what extent do you think responsibility for this uncertainty can be attributed to Donald Trump?
Well, I want to take a step back with that question. Also, are we surprised that the Israeli occupation has failed to uphold its promises this first phase of the ceasefire? Under the terms of this deal, as your colleagues have mentioned, they were required to send hundreds of thousands of tents, among other aid supply, into Gaza, coupled with the fact that the Israeli occupation haven't actually ceased fire. At least 92 Palestinians have died. I think over 800 have been wounded by direct targeting by the occupation since the ceasefire began on January 19th. It's also been established beyond any doubt that the Israeli occupation is to blame for the precarious nature of this ceasefire today. That's not coming from me or any other external advisor. This is coming from inside the occupation's regime and military itself, who've both briefed their domestic media and the New York Times with this information. And in fact, let's go back. The Israeli occupation has signed 6 ceasefire agreements with the Palestinian resistance in 08, 12, 14, 19, 21. Each time, a similar trajectory has been followed. The resistance observes the agreement, and the Israeli occupation breaches it and violates it. More recently, just look at South Lebanon. They violated the ceasefire there. There's been hundreds of breaches of the ceasefire deal, and they haven't even left South Lebanon and even have built temporary military bases. The international community got no reason to trust the Israeli occupation. It doesn't really matter what Donald Trump is saying in the White House right now. Netanyahu himself is hell-bent on breaking the ceasefire agreement and continuing this ethnic
But
cleansing.
Ashish, if I may to that point, I think what the U.S. president says matters a lot because if there is any country on this planet which could possibly put an end to Israeli onslaught on Gaza, that country is the United States.
No, I don't disagree that the United States, look, this isn't just President Trump. This is American foreign policy to ethnically cleanse and the Palestinian territory for the Israeli occupation. Joe Biden started this round of disaster on the Palestinian people, faked that he was trying to negotiate a ceasefire, and undid all international institutions so Israel could continue this hostility towards the Palestinians, continue this genocide. President Trump, frankly, has said a few words that is just basically, I always say, he's held a mirror up to who the United States really is. He's just blunt about what the American foreign policy is here. And I kind of am grateful to Trump for his openness, his lawlessness, his ignorance, and his unapologetic bigotry around this, his bullying. Because the reality is, it shows the world what the US empire is really all about, where Joe Biden and his administration had committed this genocide. And, as some reports have been, up to 300,000 people have been killed by the Israeli occupation as a result of American military firepower. But Biden would tell you that he was negotiating a ceasefire through all of that. Now, look, I would say Hamas standing firm on this and basically, threatening to postpone the release of hostages because of the Israeli occupation violating the ceasefire, especially in one critical way, the aid. And even after the occupation, threatened that they would let all hell loose on Saturday if hostages weren't released. Today, 801 trucks went into Gaza. The Israeli occupation have caved to Hamas's demands because every single person, including the White House, knows they are breaching the agreement. And I think Trump also, with those words about all hell will break loose, is also sending a message to the Israelis as much as he is to Hamas, because he doesn't want this to continue under his watch.
So, Ashish, what do you think is Israel's endgame here?
The Israelis have continued their ethnic cleansing. Most of it's been focused on the West Bank. They do want to start this again. I think the US actually, under this president, whether he is saying all these preposterous plans, and I don't take them seriously when he is saying them. This is Trump being Trump, thinking he can talk tough on TV like he's always postured, right? But I do still think it's harmful. The reality is the whole region defied Joe Biden when he asked the Egyptians to take everyone into the Sinai. And I believe the whole region will defy Trump on that too. The reality is, how much will he push on the Israeli occupation itself to shut this down and stop? And I think he will, because if you look what he's doing in other conflicts right now, take Ukraine and Russia, he's trying to bring an end to this, because I think he doesn't want his presidency to have this issue go on for the next 4 years and take all the headlines away from what he's trying to do domestically in the United States. I think he did what he had to do in the White House as a favor to Benjamin Netanyahu so he could hold his coalition together, so he could go back to Israel and say, America will do what I want. But the reality is, I think Trump wants this over so he can move on to other issues.
Fascinating insights. Ashish Prashar, thanks very much for talking to me here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.